Many of us who have been following the news have recently been reading about one of the most shocking mass suicides in United States history. As the comet Hale-Bopp grew bright, 39 Heaven's Gate cult members who mixed computers, UFOs, New Age theology, technology, and even castration methods took their own lives in a Rancho Santa Fe, California mansion. They ranged in age from 26 to 72, and in shifts, the cultists, we understand, consumed barbiturates, then put plastic bags over their heads, and then suffocated themselves.
Police speculate that the cult, called Heaven's Gate, believe that the Hale-Bopp comet was a cosmic marker for them to commit suicide because a spaceship was coming behind the comet and ready to take them away. This is police video on how it says it found all 39 cult members dressed head to toe in black, with a purple shroud over their faces. The medical examiner said they've been dead between 1 and 6 days, committed suicide by ingesting a deadly concoction of applesauce, barbiturates, and alcohol. Police say the victims are from 10 states, from Ohio to Arizona, and killed themselves over the course of several days, one group at a time, until all were dead.
How do you make sense out of such a terrible tragedy? Well, on my show today, that's what we're going to try to do. We're going to use this hour to try and keep others from following in the same fatal path, and many of you may have some young people you're concerned about, people you love who could easily get swept up in such a cult or possibly a tragedy itself. To help us in this effort, you're going to meet today a family whose daughter was led by Marshall Applewhite into her quiet death.
That is a terrible, terrible tragedy, and it was one suicide and 38 murders out there. These were innocent victims that didn't know what they were doing. They thought they were happy. They thought they found the way.
We're also going to meet a former cult member who left the Heaven's Gate cult and find out what he has to say, what he found.
Suicide was never part of their original philosophy. We would change our physical being and transport to the next level, and the event, their resurrection and ascension, would enable us to do it.
We're also going to meet a man who was one of the last people to see Marshall Applewhite alive.
He told them and he told me that I was going to take over the leadership of this group.
And later we're going to meet a cult awareness expert who's going to tell us what we can do to avoid the lure of a cult.
It is very important for people to maintain, in the face of all of these solicitations and seductions, their own self-respect and their own common sense.
But first, I'd like you to meet Robert and Alice Mater. They are from Sag Harbor, New York, and it was their daughter, Gail, who joined the Heaven's Gate cult 3 years ago. They lost Gail when she and other cult members followed Marshall Applewhite into the grave. And I understand, Mr. and Mrs. Mater, you just buried your daughter yesterday.
Yes, we did.
What are you thinking at the end of all of this?
That is a terrible, terrible tragedy, and it was one suicide and 38 murders out there. These were innocent victims that didn't know what they were doing. They thought they were happy. They thought they found the way. But my daughter was in this thing for 3 years, and when I saw the video that night, the goodbye video, I didn't recognize my daughter. She looked older, she looked tired, she had circles in her eyes, and Gail was always one that looked you dead on when she talked, and her eyes were going all over, very nervous-like. And I thought, afterwards I thought, this is not my daughter. This is a puppet that Applewhite had created and molded for 3 years of her life.
Mr. Mater, did you get any indication that this is where this cult membership might lead to?
No, never dreamed it would ever end like this. We knew when we got that first flyer mentioning UFOs and such things, we knew we were in trouble. But we had never had any way of corresponding with her, because never did we get a return address. They kept moving around.
Do you know how she got involved to begin with?
Yeah, she went cross-country with a boyfriend, and they got out to California. She started a little boutique, which she was so proud of. She held it together for a few years, and he went into construction. And then she came home to be in a wedding 3 years ago. And nothing seemed unusual then. She was her same self, happy, bubbly, dancing at the wedding, decorating the hall. It was her cousin and best friend's wedding. And she never said anything. She stayed for 2 weeks with us, and everything we think was fine at that point. But she went back and all of a sudden called one day to say that she and Chad had broken up. And that I thought that was funny because for 3 years they'd been together. And then she called a week later and she said her business wasn't doing good and she thought she'd have to close the store down. So at this point we begged her to come home. We said, Gail, nothing's there for you now, why don't you come home? Well, I really like California and I want to see what Santa Barbara's like. So I said, well, you know, your brother's graduating in June, why don't you come home for the graduation? We really want to see you. You can regroup your thoughts here, come here for a visit. And she said, well, maybe I will. Maybe I will, but she didn't. And then she called me in January of '94 to say happy birthday. And nothing seemed unusual then. She was happy still, working at a taco place actually at the time I talked to her. And then in February I got a letter in the mail saying that she was traveling amongst the out west, met up with some friends, and they were teaching her new ways to fine-tune her life, and it was a nice experience.
What did you think when you heard that? Did any antenna go up? Did you think
yeah,
it would?
Right away I called out to where she had been living, her landlady, and I said, I got this letter from Gail. Who are these friends? Are they friends from there? Because she had lots of friends there that had gone actually from our hometown out there. Or I said, is it new friends? Who are these friends? And she said, oh, I really don't know. They're just on an adventure, but I expect them back any time now. I have the cat. So I said, well, if she calls in or writes to you with a return address, let me know. And if she calls, tell her to call. I'm very worried about her. And then I didn't hear again till June. But I had called periodically after that and called the landlady in another week. And then the last time, in the end of February, I called the landlady and I said, have you heard? And she said, yes, I got a card postmarked Dallas, Texas, but you're not going to like the contents. And I said, why? What is it? And she said, they're not coming back to California. And I thought, oh God, now here with no return address, it's up to her to contact me because I had no way to contact her. And if she chose not to, she could slip amongst the cracks and I'd never see her again. So then I kept calling the landlady in California and saying, have you heard, have you heard, have you heard? Nothing, nothing, nothing. And then I got a little card in June from Eureka, California, saying she was doing fine, very happy, healthy, prayed we didn't worry about her, everything was wonderful, life was great. And just say hi to everybody at home, love Gail. And then in September of '94, we got the UFO flyer with a note on the back saying that nothing in life had motivated her till now, and we knew she was motivated enough to own that little store. And she didn't see any sense. She couldn't play society's games. She didn't see the point of it, and she was with some friends and not to worry, she'd be in contact. And that's when we knew we were really in trouble now.
Yeah. Let's continue.
Didn't sound like her words either.
Didn't
sound like
like
it was dictated.
No.
I want to talk with you about that because I know that we were talking before the show, and we're on the same page with this. It's so important to talk about this in case there's another family that you can reach out and maybe give information to. You have a letter there from your daughter, which I want you to read when we come back. And I want to know if you ever went through any types of things to say, Gail, please get out of this thing, and what her response was as well. We're also going to talk to a former cult member who saw a flyer, went to a meeting, and found himself among the flock that followed the teachings of Marshall Applewhite. Stay with us as we continue with more. We have a lot to learn during this hour inside the Heaven's Gate cult.
About to be recycled. Your only chance to evacuate is to leave with us.
This is a tragedy, and my heart goes out to the families and relatives of these victims.
Just been talking with Alice and Robert Mader, who are the parents of 27-year-old Gail Mader, who with 38 other members of the Heaven's Gate cult, committed mass suicide. Your daughter might have seen a flyer much like this one, which our next guest is going to talk about in just a minute. It was a flyer that he found in a specialty food store, and it talks about how the two individuals say they're about to leave the human level and literally, physically, enter the next evolutionary level in a spacecraft within months. We're going to talk with him about how close he got to the Heaven's Gate cult and what impressions Robert Rubin got. But before we continue, your daughter Gail, talk to us. What kind of a girl was she?
She's a perfectly normal girl. She liked all the things other girls liked. Ice skating, swimming, was good in school. Wasn't particularly interested in any space stuff. She never watched Star Trek or science fiction. You really wouldn't think she'd ever get into anything like this.
When we heard that it was this kind of a cult, it just was out of the norm, because Gail was very much into conserving the world. She loved animals. If we thought if it would be endangered species type group or save the whales or save the world, she used to give me the devil for using paper towels because too many trees had to die. And she just loved nature. She loved everything about being here. But I think the one thing that might have drawn Gail, in my mind, to it was the fact that they promised you were never going to die. And Gail was very fearful of dying. She didn't want any part of when her cat died. She couldn't handle it. She went to her grandfather's funeral and sat in, only because she was coerced to go in by her cousins, sat in the back of the mortuary with her head down. She wanted no part. And we talked one time about the hereafter. And I said, well, Gail, you know, it's a wonderful thought, and we all hope it's better, and we will go. But I said, no one has called me and said, I'm here, and it's wonderful, and I'm not going to go early. And she said, oh, God, Mommy, me neither. So I know that, but to promise that you're not going to die, you're never going to know the pain and the agony of dying. You're going to go as a person.
Because I wonder what it takes to convince someone of what seems to be impossible. I mean,
this guy stole our daughter's mind. He stole our daughter.
Yes.
It's just complete mind control. They just know how to do that. They keep them sleep deprived, certain diet, and they just get in their head and give them a little bit at a time. If anybody told you all at once about UFOs and all this, nobody would believe it. They'd run away. But they just get them in first, and little by little, before you know it, all good judgment goes out the window, and this stuff goes directly into your long-term memory.
Did you call her ever or write her and say, Gail, get out of this thing?
We had no way of doing that. We had no return address. All these little notes we got, well, the only thing we had to go was by the postmark, and we're not even sure we can go by that.
But see, once we got the UFO flyer in September, a month later she called home, the one and only phone call that we had in 3 years. And it was a Sunday afternoon, and we happened to all be home, and I picked up the phone, and she said, hi, Mom, what you doing? And I said, Gaily, where are you? What are you doing? And she said, did you get my flyer? And I said, yes, I did. And she said, well, that's what I'm doing. What do you think of it? And I said, well, and we had just got done reading Stephen Hassan's book on total combating mind control. And we knew that we shouldn't down the group, but we can't condone it. So I said, well, you know, Gail, you're 25, and if this is what you've chosen to do, we don't understand this. Please, can we get more information on the group? You know, can we come to visit you? Can you come to visit us? And she said, oh, I can't come to visit you right now, I'm too busy. And we said, you're too busy to visit your family? And she said, oh, yes. And we said, well, can we come visit you? And she said, no. She said, I am not right now, but it may be arranged. And
so all of this, do you think a lot of this was from the pressure of the cult leaders who were saying, don't visit your families, don't visit your...
I'm sure. That's one of the things they do. They cut them off from their family.
And we begged her to come home. We said, you know, Gail, can't you come for a visit and all that? And I said, well, where are you? And it was little conversations. And every question I asked her, the answer came back rather quickly, like it was all programmed into her. And then twice I asked her two things that she really had to think about. And they were things like, I said to her, well, I had heard that they feed them up on pasta and stuff and they gain weight. And she's only 97 pounds to begin with. So I said, Gaily, you're not getting fat, are you? And she said, and she laughed her laugh, and she said, oh no, Mommy, I'm still scrawny. And then I said, Gail, your brother's going to go to college in Florida. We're going to go down, take him. Why don't you fly home? And please come home, fly down with us. Make a family outing. We'll go to Disney World. Remember when you spent 10 days in Disney World with Amy? And dead silence. And I said, Gail, are you there? And she said, yeah. And I said, do you remember? And she said, no, I don't remember that. And for a girl to wipe out 10 days of excitement in Disney World, and then I said, you don't remember that? And she said, oh, maybe I do. But we kind of come by, take, you know, if you come home, we'll fly you home, round trip ticket, one way, however you want to do it, please just come home.
Some of the things that you were saying, Robert Rubin sitting there next to you, who was the man who picked up this UFO flyer, very much like what your daughter might have done, and got a lot of insight on what this cult was all about, was shaking his head. He was agreeing with some of the things about the pressures that you might be on. Let's talk about that, and let's talk about what you saw after you followed up on the flyer. Robert Rubin became a follower, by the way, of Heaven's Gate for 6 months. He says that when he joined, the leaders of the cult were known as Bo and Peep. We're going to find out what else he knows right after this.
And I hope you will subscribe and continue to enjoy. Just wanted to let you know that my voice acting masterclass is now digital. If you are somebody who's interested in being a voice actor, please go check it out. Go to Rolonda.com, Rolonda.com. That's my website, and you can check out all the details and even enroll in my voice acting masterclass. Hey, you'll never know how good you are until you try.
Imagine being held hostage by a crazed gunman.
The door opened and there's an ex-employee with a shotgun in my chest.
Former hostages relive their terror on Rolonda.
Now, if you're going to be in the New York area and would like free tickets to Rolonda, well, please call us at 212-650-2060.
I'll learn to love every day, all the way.
We understand that he wanted to be an opera singer. Instead, he would lead 39 people to their deaths. Our next guest became a follower of the Heaven's Gate cult for 6 months. Robert Rubin says that he was attracted to the group because of their high energy, their positive attitude, and that was what he himself wanted in life. You were the one who picked up that flyer.
Right.
When you heard that this was the same cult that had done one of the most massive suicides in United States history, that this was a cult that you were involved in for 6 months, did that surprise you?
Yeah, I was shocked. I had never imagined they would do anything like that, because they claimed an event would happen where the two, him and her, he and she, Bo and Peep.
Bo and Peep, as they were called.
Bo and Peep, when I knew them. T and Doe at the end.
And he and she, they're also referred to.
They were supposed to get killed, as they claimed, violently killed or assassinated, resurrect in 3 days, and then ascend in a spaceship after that.
How does someone get involved in this, Robert? I mean, I think so many people say, if somebody said that to me, I'd say, are you out of your mind? Are you nuts? Right. How do you get wrapped up into something like that?
Well, you're looking for answers. Why are we here? What are we here for? You go through life every day wondering, is this all there is? I studied various religions and metaphysics and the occult, and I was looking for answers, and they seemed to have a different slant on it. They spoke about actually going to the next level. The analogy of the caterpillar, the cocoon, and the butterfly, it's the same spirit in the caterpillar and in the cocoon and in the butterfly, a different physical vehicle for that spirit of the caterpillar. Mm-hmm. So that made some sense to me, and I thought I'd give it a try.
Alice and Robert Mater lost their daughter. In fact, and my condolences go to you so much, because just last night you buried your daughter. Yeah. She wrote you a letter when she was a part of this cult, in which she was part of the cult for 3 years, and I'm curious to hear what she had to say.
Okay. She said, "Dear Mom and Dad, just a little note wishing everyone there the best. I am doing well and I'm very happy. I've traveled all over, met some interesting people, and learned a lot. I think my choices in life might puzzle you at times, but I really want you to be aware that I'm doing exactly what I want to, and it makes me very happy. I hope that knowing that makes you happy too. It may comfort you to know I'm still not participating in any sexual acts. It is really nice to establish better relationships, especially with males. As I mentioned, I do not use any drugs. No one I associate with drinks coffee or alcohol. They don't smoke pot or cigarettes, and they're all celibate. I'm going to the dentist today. I chipped a filling on some candy a while back, and it left a hole that food could get caught in. You know how I feel about going to the dentist. I put it off as long as possible, so today I'll go and get it taken care of. Guess I'll sign off for now. Please say hi to everyone for me. I'll be in touch. Take care and stay happy. Love, Gail.
Do you think that she was really happy?
In her own mind, what he is creating, yes, I believe she thought she was happy.
Robert, what did you see in that 6 months that still rings in your ear, rings in your head, the things you remember, the things especially after this mass suicide?
Well, I learned to develop a good attitude because they said that any obstacles in your path to this next level are put there for you to overcome. So you develop an attitude that if you get a flat tire, it's good I got a flat tire because that's for me to overcome. That's one of the obstacles in my path to the next level. I've learned now that the higher consciousness, the unity consciousness or the Christ consciousness that was what they were talking about, that the process that you were on of cutting loose your past life, that's why your daughter didn't get in touch with you, because the process we were on, you weren't allowed to do that. You cut loose your ties to your former life, and you were in this cocooning process preparing yourself to go to the next level.
Talk about that, Robert. What were the rules of this cult?
Some of the things mentioned in the letter, no sex, no drugs, no newspapers, no radio, no TV, no magazines.
No touch with the outside world.
No touch with the outside world. The only thing we read were red letter editions of the Bible, Jesus' words only. And we read Jesus' words constantly.
How could you keep people from their family and they just agreed with it?
Right. Everything was done voluntarily. You were in a relationship with your partner to the point that you traveled with this partner and they helped you stay on the trip. But there was never any restraints. Once you agreed to do it, you jumped in with 2 feet because you couldn't do it any other way.
6 months, you said, I'm out of here. What happened that made you decide to quit the cult? And what kind of reaction did you get?
Well, I believe I had a subconscious timeline. I was looking for the event to happen. The media, when they realized 20 people from Waldport went away, just, gave it a lot of attention. And there was a well-publicized meeting in Santa Monica within about 2 or 3 months after we left Waldport, and the two didn't show up at it. And I was a little disillusioned because I felt that they were possibly fearful.
Bo and Peep did not show up at their own meeting.
Right. Well, it wasn't their meeting. We were at that point going out spreading the word.
But they didn't show up at the meeting, and that disappointed you.
That disappointed me because I had this timeline where if they were going to have the event happen within 3 or 4 months, because the poster said within months, I wondered why they didn't show up at that meeting.
What other reasons did you decide to leave the cult?
I was hesitant to keep spreading the message when I was starting to have doubts. And I stayed with some people in Arizona who I realized were living a wonderful life with compassion and love, and that was maybe one of the answers I was looking for.
But you never got any kind of inkling in that 6 months that this would end in suicide, that they were actually talking about people taking their lives?
Suicide was never part of their original philosophy. We would change our physical being and transport to the next level, and the event, their resurrection and ascension, would enable us to do it.
So why do you think suicide came up? Why do you think that they decided to take this extreme measure?
I think they misinterpreted what's happening.
When we come back, we're going to meet a man who was one of the last people to talk to Marshall Applewhite before he orchestrated the mass suicide of 39 cult members, one of the worst in United States history. What was Marshall Applewhite like to begin with and to end, toward the end? We're going to talk about that when we return.
This is a very exciting time for us. Who is us? I'm Doe, for starters, and I have in front of me a number of students, or my classroom, or in old language, a couple thousand years ago, disciples. Those who are trying to prepare themselves for entry into the evolutionary level.
The Heaven's Gate webpage, reportedly linked to the cult, opens with a red alert concerning the comet Hale-Bopp. It says, "The joy is that our older member in the evolutionary level above human has made it clear to us that Hale-Bopp's approach is the marker we've been waiting for. Our 22 years of classroom here on planet Earth is finally coming to conclusion. Graduation from the human evolutionary level. We are happily prepared to leave this world.
It's really frightening when you think that, you know, how many of us have kids who are, surfing through the internet, and it's amazing the types of things that could come to them, as we have seen with this whole Heaven's Gate cult. Joining us now is Lee Shargel. He is the author of Voice in the Mirror, and Lee says that he was one of the last people to speak with cult leader Marshall Applewhite just before the suicide. Lee, what can you tell us?
I can tell you exactly what happened. I was engaged in my book tour, and I was giving a small lecture in a place just a few blocks from Marshall's mansion. He had come there along with about 8 members of the group, and I had met him before. And over the past few weeks, I'm beginning to realize exactly what Marshall Applewhite was doing. Marshall Applewhite used me the same way he used all those other people. And he used me and my book to convince them to validate the beliefs that he had, his sci-fi theology that he created. He told them and he told me that I was going to take over the leadership of this group. He had to leave now, is what he told me. We're going on one journey, and Lee, you're going on another. And he gave me several gifts, and he took my right hand and he put it on his chest as a gesture of him passing the baton to me.
And what were you thinking when he did that?
Well, at the time, I was thinking, I was a little flattered by it, and without saying bad things about people who live in California, I'd seen a lot of people like that out there. So he didn't seem all that much stranger than everybody else.
But Lee, I like the fact that you admitted, because there was flattery there. There could be, I'm just trying to see how this man worked.
I'm an author. This is my first novel. I was flattered that he had liked my book so much, and so did all the other people. And the way that he made that statement was that I was speaking some prophecy in my book. And although it's a science fiction novel, any writer would be flattered to have someone say that to them. And there is a wonderful message in Voice in the Mirror. But the message is not take your life to get to the next level.
Did that surprise you that 39 people did?
I was absolutely shocked, floored, saddened, to the point where I even cried that this had occurred. If I had just taken a moment to realize what I was seeing, I would have done everything within my power to save those people.
What kind of gifts did he give you here?
Well, the first thing Marshall gave me was this. This is the original picture of what he called the celestial brother. But I have come to realize that is not what this is. What this is, and what Marshall told those other people, this was a self-portrait of what Marshall was to become. Because right here in the lapel, it says Doe. And he wanted me to believe that, and he wanted them to believe that, and I believe that this madman convinced 38 innocent people that they were going to someplace wonderful, and that lie caused them to commit suicide.
What else do you have there?
He also gave me this. He told me, he said, Lee, I want you to have this. In my book, I talk about this wonderful energy that will surround the earth called the G. It's a wonderful energy that comes from the birthplace of thought. I wrote about that in my science fiction. And in that I said that when this force surrounds the earth, peace will break out all over. And that's a wonderful thought, but it's science fiction. But he said this was the G. And that vibration, that tone, went through all of us and caused us to transform. Now, when he did that, I thought that was a little loony. Me too. But I took the thing and I got it.
How do you think people get wrapped up into this? I mean, what was it? Did Applewhite have some kind of? I mean, I look at his eyes on those news footage, and he's like piercing.
Rolonda, I believe that literally almost anybody can become a cult leader these days, because so many of our children sitting in front of that monitor on the internet or some of the movies and the violence that we see, their minds have been emptied out with what's good, and we're filling them up with all this garbage. I say grab your children around you, give them a hug. your grandparents, the senior citizens, everyone. Black, white, I don't care what you are. We have to learn something from this tragedy.
And that's why we're doing this hour. I'm sure there are many people in the audience with questions. We're going to continue taking a deep look into this cult. In fact, we're going to talk to a cult expert who worked with Alice and Robert Mader as they got through their tragedy. Their 27-year-old daughter, as you recall, Gail, joined Heaven's Gate. And why was she unable to be saved? We're going to talk with an expert on cults, and maybe you could save someone you love after this. I was just talking here to Bob Grosswald. He is the Vice President of the Cult Information Service, which is, we're going to give you a number to call in case you believe that someone you love may be getting involved with a cult. Bob has been working with Alice and Robert Mader ever since their daughter Gail joined the Heaven's Gate cult. She was one of the 39 suicide victims. The thing that you were talking about is what got you, about what Lee just said, about hugging your child.
I agree fully to hug your child. But while you're hugging them, give them a lesson in the techniques of influence that we as a group of people are so ignorant about. You could hug your child all day long. I know people who had religious backgrounds, who had non-religious backgrounds. It doesn't matter what your family life is like. That's not going to protect you from a cult, because you have to learn the techniques of influence that advertisers have a ball with us. Politicians have a ball with us because we're so ignorant about it.
Because a lot of people do say, Bob, oh, those people wouldn't have been in that cult if they had a strong family life, if everybody was...
I wish that was true. As hard as it is to give everybody a strong family life, that's just not the case. My own son came from a very strong family, very religious family. And you talk about the beliefs are irrelevant. People do not go in because of these oddball beliefs, because if they saw these beliefs initially, they wouldn't join. People aren't stupid. They are hooked with something. Mr. Rubin said he was looking for something. Well, there are people who are looking for business courses, people who are looking for stress management courses. And whatever it is you're looking for, there is a group out there for you that will hook you. And once you're in it, you don't understand how quickly flattery can get you deeper in. We don't understand, as a nation, we don't understand the altered states of consciousness that you are seduced into in these groups. And it's not somebody standing there with a watch going like this to go sleep and sleep and sleep. They'll give you a long talk. They will give you breathing exercises, repetition. They will hold you there for 4 or 5 hours. Later on, as the sessions go on longer, and you start to lose the ability to think critically. And once you do that, you could take people anywhere, just the way Adolf Hitler took his people.
How do you get them out? Let's say there's somebody who, you had a son in a cult, is that right?
Right.
Is that right? That's how you got so involved in understanding
That's how we got
this?
involved in it, because I had the straightest kid in the world. He didn't drink, he didn't smoke, he was a A student, he was active in school, he was the typical all-American boy. And here he is, cutting off all relation to the family, which, by the way, is a very strong key, because what will happen if people have a relationship with the family? That's the most dangerous thing that can happen to a cult, because the person in the group will get information. And that can't happen if you're a good cult leader. You can't allow that to happen. So we convinced my son to look at the other side, to look at the other evidence. These people did everything they could. Unfortunately, they had a group that kept moving from place to place to place, and they couldn't find her. My son, I knew where he was at that moment, and so I acted. But in another 2 weeks, he could have been anywhere.
What happened to your son?
After the cult,
You got him out.
we got him out. He went back to school, and in fact, it was my son who gave a lecture at college that I believe their nephew saw, and that's how they got them into an area where they can get some information about what was going on.
If you suspect a family member of yours is in the threat of being lured by a cult or starting to get involved, there is a number that you can call. It's called the Cult Information Service Helpline, and that number on your screen there is 201-833-1212. Just that simple, 201-833-1212. We'll be back in just a minute. She's 5 months pregnant and says she can't stop smoking.
It's hard. You can't just quit like that overnight.
You have to stop being so selfish, and you have to make it a point to stop smoking.
Teen smoking on Rolonda. We've been learning an awful lot during this past hour about cults, particularly the Heaven's Gate cult and the lure and things to look out for, especially if there's someone you love who might be prey to cult members. Lots of questions from our audience members, and you have one.
Yes, I have a question for Robert. You say you was in the cult for like 6 months, right?
Right.
And you saw a change. I would like to know, how did you become about taking the change for yourself, and could you have helped others get out of there also, and were they mad at you when you left?
They weren't mad at me when I left. We had a meeting, and we got someone else to join, and all of a sudden there was an odd number of members, and I ended up without a partner. And I believe that enabled me, without that partner strengthening the staying on the process, it enabled me to break out of it.
Yes.
Yes, this question is to the couple that lost a daughter. Please accept my condolences. And I would like to know, how close were you with your daughter? If she was going through something very difficult in her life, would she be comfortable enough in trusting you?
Yes, we were very close with Gail all her life, and I was on a telephone calls 2 or 3 times a week just to hear her voice, and we always told her, you know, anything you need, we're there for you. She knew she could come back unconditionally, and the avenues was open as long as we could communicate to her. But we couldn't.
Our next guest says that now is a time more than ever that families need to be listening to information like this about cults. Herbert Rosedale is the president of the American Family Foundation, and he helps families particularly fight cults. Why is now the time more than ever?
Because we're in a world where there are so many uncertainties and so many lures and so many people who are presented with this vast variety of stimuli, and that it is very important for people to maintain, in the face of all of these solicitations and seductions, their own self-respect and their own common sense. It's like the last person asked the question, and what really is pointed out is what's said earlier, that the person in the cult is a different person than the person that they were before. And that's a very important thing to understand.
Mm-hmm. How do you know if somebody you deeply love is getting involved in a cult?
Well, there are several signs that you will see that should put you on notice. The first thing you should see is a revision in their personality, a stark change. The people who are outgoing become inward-looking. The second thing is a sharp change in their friends. All of a sudden, those people they listened to, they relied on, are no longer able to understand them, and they have a whole new group of friends who have the secret. They have the only truth. You see them separate from their family and their parents. Those things that used to be important, family events, birthdays, all of a sudden you hear those magic words, "I'm too busy." Too busy doing what?
That's exactly what the Maters said. All of a sudden, this daughter who had been so close suddenly was too busy to visit her family. We'll be right back with more information right after this break. Question here.
Rolonda, there's a question for you. What do you think is in this subject, aside from the tragedy, that has made it so fascinating for the public?
You know something? I have been fascinated by this because I don't know what gets in somebody's mind that would make them follow something so crazy. And you look at people like the Mater's child and the 39 other people, like we say, that I think they must have changed their personalities or something. I think it's because I'm curious to know how somebody, what situation they're in to get so weak that they would believe something so impossible to me. And I think it also says something a lot with Ms. Rosedale was saying, that there's a lot going on with our families these days, and people are looking for something. And I think that's why I'm so fascinated by it.
Do you think it tells us a lot about ourselves more than just this event?
I think so. I think it tells about a society that could help, that could fertilize these types of cults, that they could continue growing. Yes, come on, stand up.
Was Gail your only daughter, and do you have an idea how long she was in it?
Yes, Gail was our only daughter. We have another son, but she's our only daughter.
And she was in for 3 years, is that right?
3 years.
You know, having children, what would be the best thing that you could suggest that I could think about? You know, you gave signs, but what else would be something to really look for?
Advice, maybe.
Having children.
Yeah, it is.
Could I answer that?
Sure, Herbert.
We run a lot of programs at the American Family Foundation for children in schools. We run them on a high school and a college level. And one of the things we do most is to tell people to keep their self-respect and critical thought, to keep communication with those people who they have built trust with, their family, their advisors. Talk things over. We also stress to them that when somebody tells you to do something that you don't think is right, you shouldn't do it to please them or to make them happy.
Robert is sitting there shaking his head as well.
Right. Separate the message from the messenger. Take it home, digest it, look at the message separate from the group. If it still appeals to you, study it a little more. But don't get hung up on the messenger, and don't do anything that's harmful to yourself or to anyone else.
Question.
Rolonda, first of all, I must say it's a pleasure to be here. From what I hear, that most of the men in the cult were castrated. So this question is for Robert. Was he himself castrated?
No, I wasn't. I believe they did that because they didn't have the willpower to abstain from sex.
Robert, you should be on your knees every day thanking God that you made a decision like that. We'll be right back, folks. We'll be right back. I hope I'll have time to get...
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this episode of Rolonda, and I hope that you'll subscribe and follow so many of my other activities on my Rolonda channel, including some stand-up comedy, some podcasts, some great auntie advice, and loads of laughs and lots of fun. So subscribe and stay tuned. Now, let's get back to the show.
Imagine being held hostage by a crazed gunman.
The door opened and there was an ex-employee with a shotgun in my chest.
What would you do?
I was calm until I realized the hostage on the staircase was my boyfriend.
How would you survive?
Knock me down, told me, don't pick up your head or I will blow it off.
Former hostages relived their terror.
He fired and the shot went over my shoulder.
Held hostage on Rolonda. Before we say goodbye, Mr. Mader, I know that there was something that it was very important that you say.
Well, I just want the other parents to know that Alice and I wish sincere condolences to them people. We want them to know it's certainly not their fault or the fault of the victims. They just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
And I would like to thank both you and Alice for being here, because for you to be here one day after you have said goodbye to your daughter, I really appreciate that, because you might have helped so many families across this country, and I appreciate that. Yes, sir.
My first thing is to Alice and Robert. My deepest and sincere condolences to you for your loss. As a parent, I can certainly sympathize. To Robert, how easy was it to get out? Usually in cults, it's very difficult to stay or to get out once you're in. They don't let you out. Right. So how easy was it to get out?
It was very easy for me, because once we had the meeting and there was an odd number and I was unpartnered, that last link of keeping me in it, since I was already having my doubts, was gone. And I just stopped doing it.
Let me say, we're going to say goodbye, but we're going to continue giving out this information here. Thank you, and we'll see you next time. Yes, sir.